Over the last 30 days, I've transitioned my 50K a month business to be run entirely on Claude Code. I'm currently in London consulting for a client that's paying me 2K a day, and I'm going to share you the tools that is making this all possible, because when I started in business 12 years ago, I couldn't even imagine to be running a business like this back then because none of the tools or tech existed. So as you can see on the page here, there's 35, 7.5 and 7.5. And these are all payments from clients for AI growth consulting work. Before we get into it, how did I actually get here? Well, in 2014, I was a personal trainer, opened a gym, scaled that up to 7 locations, was on the Australian Shark Tank, bought a couple other businesses, started a few apps, bought a few buildings, and basically it got to 2020, right before COVID, and I was like, I've had enough. So I sold my share of the company, and a few of the gyms are still running today. From there, got into Go High Level very early in May of 2020. I think I was about the 7,000 user, and I was able to build a software company. Me and a business partner, we built that up. And then basically kind of 2022, 2023 rolled around, started to really get into AI, and I could just see the power of that. I kind of forked it, created my own new agency, and was starting to build AI for businesses. Started off with speech lead bots, then got into more and more advanced things, and now running a full suite kind of consultancy where we're identifying problems and building custom solutions for businesses. How do we do that? Well, it's called AI growth consulting, and basically it is you get paid to find problems that only an outsider can. And that's really important because so many business owners and leaders and founders and executives, whatever you want to call them, are stuck so much in the day-to-day that they never actually zoom out and go, what is the actual problem that we need to solve, and what is the best use of our resources? Because resources are finite. You only have a finite amount of time, energy, money, and attention. With that, we need to pick the things that are going to remove the bottlenecks so that we can remove the constraints and keep moving forward as an organization. With this, it really only works when the client is big enough to matter, right? If the company's making a couple of grand a month and you go in and say, hey, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be $10,000 or $20,000 a month. If that's more than the monthly or even annual revenue, it's really not going to work. Growth consulting, you want to focus on businesses that can actually pay your bills, and more importantly, actually get a really good ROI, right? There's no point selling to something to someone, and they don't get a result. You look like an idiot, they're angry, and that kind of creates a really bad environment. That's how we want to think about the clients that we are working with, so that we can actually charge high ticket retainers, get paid, and actually live a good life, because that is what this is all about. And again, we want to make a distinction on that this isn't kind of an agency, right? Like I've done the agency work, but what I really focus on is being a consultant, being a highly paid problem solver. And when we look at the difference, is like, you got these local businesses as a client, you might do social media management and SMMA, which is kind of so 2016, that's been done to death. What you really want to be doing is solving the most pressing problems for businesses with AI, with tech, with automation, with ads, and actually scaling businesses, because then you can get a really good piece of the pie. What you're really doing is kind of like strategic implementation and not tasks. Like you might do a few tasks, but you're really talking about the strategy and how it can actually create the strategy that's actually going to create growth in the business, and that is the big difference. And now with Claude, you can actually get Claude to do all the work, and that's what I've been able to do with most of my clients. Again, there's still the kind of 10% that I need to do, but mostly Claude is doing the work, and I'm just overseeing Claude and seeing what the agents are doing and orchestrating the agents as their kind of chief, right? And that's kind of the big distinction. Make sure that you're leveraging the tools available, so you're not around there clicking around and doing manual work, because that doesn't really scale. Now, when we're looking at it, it's why isn't everyone doing this? And I think it boils down to 3 reasons, right? Like Deloitte, McKinsey, and the big consulting firms that make billions of dollars a year have really gatekept this kind of model. They've built billion-dollar companies, convincing enterprises and big businesses that only big firms are qualified for this work. But now that model's been flipped on its head, because you or I can go out and actually give the same outcomes at a better rate, and that's not going to take so long. Because again, the thing about incumbents, yeah, they've got a big brand, but they also take so long, and there's just so many layers of management and just time and just waste. Whereas the right business owners, they want to move quickly. And again, if you can prove that you can get them result, you can print cash beyond your wildest dreams. The second thing is the irony is most of the consultants are fresh out of university or fresh out of college and being charged for $500 an hour, and they don't really know what they're doing. They're just following these frameworks and they can't really think outside the squares. And again, that doesn't go to all consultants, but actually using your kind of internet marketing skills and your skills of acquisition, your skills skills of tech, you're actually a much more rounded individual that can help businesses scale because you actually understand how things work. Whereas if you've never run and you've never done anything like that, you can't really put the pieces together. And AI can't do that yet, but I'm kind of banking on the next 6 to 12 months that AI can actually put all the pieces together. The real money is going to be actually how to implement these systems for businesses, and everything else will either you'll be replacing people with AI or you'll be getting replaced by AI. And that will fall into the two buckets, and it's a pretty crazy thing to say, but that's truly how I look at it. And you go, oh, why is that? Well, the reason is, and the reason why I've been able to get so much work is that fundamentally, like, a business operates to like give like shareholder value, whether that's the owner, whether that's if it's a publicly traded company, it needs to create shareholder value. So it's in the best interest of the company to increase profit and reduce costs, right? And that's all that you're doing as an AI growth consultant. You're doing one or the other. You're either making them more profitable, making them grow, or you're reducing their costs. To be actually how to implement these systems. There's just more profit at the end of the day. The key here, and wrapping it all up, and why everyone's doing this is like AI is moving so fast, right? And I think learning specific tools is a fool's game because they're constantly changing. And if you said kind of 3 months ago that like Claude's going to overtake ChatGPT, everyone would look at you like you're a clown. But you know, we've seen in the last kind of 6 weeks, Claude Code has just gone like exponential growth, more revenue now than OpenAI. If you don't understand like problem solving and constraint theory and the actual like the fundamental business principles of inputs, outputs, first principles thinking, well then you're basically useless because the tools are going to become obsolete. And if you're married to a tool, then that is not the right way to do it. You want to focus on being able to problem solve and actually be able to get clients, service clients, give them results, and then move on to the next one. And then like in terms of that, like the real barrier is positioning, right? So to get in front of enterprises and big clients, you actually need to look like an authority. And that's kind of where I'm teaching clients, you know, having your profile set up, having web pages. So, you know, do you pass the sniff test? Like if they put you into Google and nothing comes up, or like this shitty website comes up, well then you look like a clown and you're not going to get the work, right? People do their due diligence. They check your LinkedIns, they check your Instagrams, they check your socials. So like what is showing up and how we actually position that as a consultant that solves problems instead of, oh, hey, we're an agency that we do everything, right? No one wants to work with that. Everyone wants to work with specialists that are going to solve their problems. And that is the key on positioning, right? And, you know, there's no excuse now not to look professional because, again, you're like one prompt away from a website. You're one prompt away from like a really good social profile. You know, you can get your images done. You can do all these things now with just a selfie. That you actually need to focus on the positioning and, again, having attention on your business, because if not, you're basically screwed. Now that we understand positioning, we want to look at something what I call the 4D demand matrix. So there's 4 ways that you can get clients. You can do warm outbound, so that's people that know you. Cold outbound, that's cold email, LinkedIn, shit like that. You've got content, so videos like this, shorts, reels, TikToks, all that kind of thing. And then you've got ads, which is basically creating content and then putting money behind it so it shows up in people's feeds. That is the simplistic way. And then when we're looking at them, you've got to figure out which one fits to your business. When we're picking the right channels, you want to start with the target, right? So business is like you're solving a problem for a niche. And that's the equation that we need to look at. So if you're not solving a problem for a niche, it's very hard to do marketing, do content. The problem with most people with content, it doesn't actually speak to anyone. And then you throw in AI slop on top of that with a bunch of M-dashes. It's not this, it's that, and it's not this and that. And all of those terrible sentence structures that you've seen before. You wonder why you get no clicks, no comments, no leads, no sales, because it's basically shit. So you want to focus on really writing or creating for a specific niche and a specific target, right? This video I'm creating for you is like, if you want to learn how to actually sell AI growth consulting and get out of the agency world and actually make some real money with AI, you're my guy and this video is for you. If that's not you, you're probably still not watching, right? So that's kind of how this works. You want to look at the TAM. So TAM is total addressable market. So things like fitness offers have huge total addressable markets because basically everyone wants to get in shape, everyone wants to lose weight. Whereas when we're going into B2B or we're going into specific offers, say if you do a specific offer helping stem cell clinics get more clients or do peptides or something like that, then you've got a really specific total addressable market. So again, Facebook ads potentially will work 100%, but like going in using LinkedIn Sales Navigator and searching the decision makers, whether it's the CMO, CTO, CEO, founders, directors of those companies, it's going to yield a lot better results if there's only, 2,000 people worldwide that could actually use your product or service. So again, having a bit of discernment on who it is that you're actually targeting is going to create a world of difference on your result. Whereas again, if you've got like a broad offer, like you work with construction companies or you work with car dealerships or something like that, well then like there is kind of thousands of them. So you can run broader Facebook ads, and you're going to get a result as well. So what most people say is you have to do this or you have to do that. My view is like, okay, pick the right tool for the job. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, but if you're a Swiss Army knife, you can basically do different things for different people. And that's kind of the key on being a growth consultant, is actually understanding what is it, the problem that you're solving for yourself and then for your clients as well. Right, so now we've got the 4D demand matrix, but what actually makes this work? Well, there's 3 things that you want to look at. So number 1, again, is position yourself as someone that can solve their problem and be an outsider with the business acumen, with the understanding, and with the capabilities to actually solve the problem at hand. Then the second thing is like looking the part, right? Like, again, it's so simple, but a clean DP, cover photo on LinkedIn, a bio, a link, stuff like that, that they can actually do their research. And as time goes on, more and more people are doing their research online. So if things aren't optimized in your profiles, on your websites, and where people can actually search you, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. And then thirdly, like if you are looking at those enterprise clients and the kind of the bigger deals, is like go where enterprises spend their time. It's emails, it's LinkedIn, it's channels like that. And can you find enterprises on TikTok and Discord? Like absolutely, because people are using it. But you want to focus your channel where, again, you're going to have the highest chance of reward from your effort. Because if you try to be everywhere at once, again, unless you're at $100, $200, $300,000 a month, in your business, then you're just going to be burnt out and you're going to be under-resourced. And again, like focus is the key skill, right? So if you want some help in terms of getting this all set up, position yourself as an AI growth consultant, the assets, what you actually need, I'll leave a link below this video where you can actually check it all out. I'll run you through the entire process of how we position ourselves for, $5,000 to $35,000 deals and how we're actually closing them with our sales process, with our resources and the assets that we create pre-call for these clients. So again, if you want to check that out, click below. If you like this video, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.